What's up guys, Dykate here. And yes, I know it's been an eternity since I've said that out loud, but here we finally are. Actually, speaking of which, one second. Jokes aside, I hope everybody is holding up okay out there. Today I want to introduce you all to the Lost Commercials Foundation, an online collective operating mainly out of a Discord server, which, as you might have guessed, was established to search for lost commercials. And in the short months the foundation has existed, it's already seen several successful searches. You can find the link for the Lost Commercials Foundation Discord server in the video description, so feel free to join if any of the searches I'm about to talk about interest you. But what exactly is happening in the LCF Discord at this point in time?
Well, I'll tell you.
Not like that! Not like that! No! Stop it! He's going to tell.
Well, as I mentioned earlier, there have already been several successful hunts, including this nightmarish creation, which was inexplicably used as a lupus awareness PSA, and the now well-documented baby shower demon lady Carb Solutions commercial. But there are still many searches currently ongoing, which is where this video and
you, the viewers,
come in. Though, with that said, there is one key point I'd like to stress. If you're thinking of reaching out to anyone who was involved in the creation of any of these commercials, please consult us first.
I can't stress that enough.
Since it's very likely we would have already contacted them, and we don't want to inundate anyone with messages, especially in these trying times. Also, one thing I'd like to clear up quickly before we start is that none of the video footage you're about to see is actually from any of these commercials. They are all completely lost as far as actual video footage goes. Just saying so now so I don't have to put a "this isn't it" note over every clip I use. So, without any further ado, here is my community spotlight on the current searches of the Lost Commercials Foundation, in no particular order. And just a short disclaimer, some of these commercials are a bit on the disturbing side. You've been warned. Now, on with the video. This first entry comes to us from the UK's Splat campaign, Safe Play at All Times, and was created in 1997. Game Over, What Can Happen If Children Go Onto a Building Site, is a PIF, public information film, directed by Perry Miller and Robert Vincent. It involves a group of children playing on a dangerous construction site, where one of the kids ends up dying after an accident. Their name is then apparently shown being permanently crossed off the attendance sheet the next morning, before the boy's parents are seen grieving at his grave as the short ends. This 9-minute public information film is confirmed to have been shown in UK schools, and can be found on a 2007 DVD by the HSE, the Health and Safety Executive, called Kids Safe, though no public copies of this DVD have been located since the search began, for purchase or otherwise. We have, however, found what appears to be the full script, which gives us an idea as to why the short is called Game Over. The short answer is that the kid who dies is carrying a Game Boy around with him throughout the film, which gets smashed at the end as he falls to his death. A quick note about why this channel is called Charlotte WORKSITE PIF. Somebody in the community who has seen it recalled the person who died as being a girl named Charlotte. Though this is at odds with the script we found, the name stuck. Just something to be aware of. That aside, I personally reached out to co-director Perry Miller, who said that he would check his archives for me, but as of this recording, I've not yet received any follow-ups. If and when I do though, the first place you will hear about it will be on the LCF Discord. This next one comes to us once again from the United Kingdom, and, according to at least one online witness, was shown during an interview on a TV AM airing of Good Morning Britain in the mid-80s. While the contents of the clip have been pretty thoroughly described by said witness, the context of it all is still unclear, so I'll read off the description and then let you guys decide. We first see an overhead view of a public pool, where a mother can be seen sitting in a chair, changing her child into his swimmers while she talks to him. All of a sudden, the mother's voice changes to a comical yet creepy voice, described by the OP as Donald Duck-like, before the mother is lifted out of her chair by an unseen force and thrown into the pool, while bystanders act like nothing has happened, including the child. I'm really interested to find out more about this one, purely because of how bizarre the whole thing sounds and what, if anything, it could possibly be advertising or representing. The most popular theory at the moment is that it was a safe swimming PIF, but as of yet, nothing concrete has been found that fully supports that theory. From the UK to its southerly cousin, my very own girt-by-sea homeland of Australia, come the 2007 Big Bugs commercials from the Quarantine Matters campaign. These actually consist of two separate versions of pretty much the same premise, and it's one of the rare instances in which I can actually recall, at least vaguely, having seen a lost commercial that's being sought after. These PSAs, public service announcements, depict travellers at an airport trying to get through customs while holding huge animatronic bugs. There's a 30-second one with a man holding an Asian longhorned beetle larva, and a 15-second one with a woman holding a capra beetle, along with respective poster versions. The idea behind these commercials was that, as per one of their posters, if it was this obvious, everyone would declare to quarantine. Despite the higher production values of these commercials, they have seemingly not been archived online anywhere, as extensive crawls through hours upon hours of Australian commercial compilations by myself and others have shown. We did manage to identify the production company behind the commercials as KWP, who I did have a brief conversation with, in which they said they would take a look and get back to me. But sadly, this too is a situation where I have not yet heard a follow-up from them. I've also contacted several others who were listed in online CVs as having worked on it, but they have either not responded yet or did not have a copy on hand. Keep an eye on the Australian Bug PSA channel for any potential future updates on this one. Nearly everybody has at least that one commercial from childhood that permanently scarred their young minds. For me, it was this.
This is my summer holiday.
We're all going on a summer holiday. No more working for a week or two.
As you can see, very organised.
Summer holiday. No more worries for me or you.
Wait, Dad.
For a week or two. We're going where the sun shines brightly. We're going where the sea is blue. We've seen it in the movies. Now let's see it.
For you, maybe it was the Caramilk Devil, the Judder Man, or maybe even the Kefir Zombie, for any particularly unlucky German viewers here. But for the children of New York City in 1982, it was almost certainly a shockingly graphic PSA detailing the aftermath of the tragic story of Betty Brinkley. And it kinda goes without saying, but there won't be any fancy background graphics or jokes for this one, since the subject matter is pretty heavy. On one devastating December night in 1977 in Camden, New Jersey, Betty Brinkley, her husband, and their 3 children were caught in a house fire after her husband fell asleep in bed with a lit cigarette. Tragically, Betty was the only survivor of the inferno, and was left with horrific facial scars as a result. Around 5 years later, in early 1982, the New York City Fire Department commissioned a PSA featuring Betty Brinkley. At the time, it was described by the New York Times as being not easy to watch, and for good reason. The PSA begins with Betty holding up an old black and white photo of herself, with the photo obscuring her face. She tells the story of how her husband fell asleep while smoking, causing the deaths of both himself and their 3 children, and how she was the only survivor. In one chilling final moment, she says, "I guess I was the lucky one," before putting down the photo and revealing her disfigured face. It understandably shocked viewers at the time, some of whom have today gone on to try and search for the commercial, only to find 0 traces of it online. I can honestly see why this one hasn't been archived online in any official capacity, or unofficial for that matter, but I do have to admit that it's an effective way of getting a message across. And this concept was actually reused some decades later in a PSA featuring Jacqueline Sabarito, the victim of a drunk driver, who was also left facially disfigured. Sadly, both Betty Brinkley and Jacqueline Sabarito have since passed away, and my heart goes out to their loved ones. To something at least a little more lighthearted now, a creepy lost Japanese commercial. About the dangers of street scams. As with Hirogata, most of the information available on this one comes from anonymous Japanese people online, so don't shoot the messenger if it also ends up in lost media limbo. With that said, the PSA, dubbed by the lost Japanese commercials community as Joruri, and yes, there is a lost Japanese commercials community, remember that next time you think your hobby is too niche, is said to have been made to raise awareness of what we English speakers would call catch sales, a type of scam where susceptible people are led to a secluded place under the guise of making a sale or business deal and are then extorted out of their money. The commercial, which apparently aired in or around 1992, shows a wooden kabuki doll, the kind typically used in Joruri theatre, hence the nickname given to the ad by the community, on a dimly lit street trying to get the attention of a bypasser by calling out, "Here, here," in Japanese of course. As the bypasser approaches the doll, a wooden clapping sound is heard as the doll's face changes to a creepy, demonic-looking one. Japanese words to the effect of, "Come on, let's never keep up with catch sales," appear and/or are spoken before the PSA ends. Again, as with Hitogata, the only things available right now are recreations. Well, there's at least one recreation for this one in particular. With the exception of one possible contender, a commercial called Karakuri Doll, from which we only have a single screenshot, via a 1992 commercial yearbook. And what a great idea, why don't way more of these yearbooks exist? Is Karakuri Doll the official name for what has come to be known as Joruri? Only time will tell. But one thing for sure is that I'm certainly keeping an open mind about it, and a close eye on it. Two creepy ads for the price of one, here we go. Now, I've labelled this one as late 1990s/early 2000s, but the citing dates are a bit inconsistent, so take that with a little bit of a grain of salt for now. Same with the notion that it's a commercial for a printer, as this hasn't actually been definitively proven yet. Anyway, this US ad shows an old man pottering around his house, and this already is where testimonies start to differ. One states that the old man is looking at pictures of his family that have been taped onto the wall, perhaps printed with a printer, while stating with somewhat sinister undertones that he had gotten rid of his family members, followed by a strange, "Yah, Yah, Yah." The other testimony cites it as showing the old man deleting photos and sending emails on his computer while saying the same kinds of things. I won't lie, I'm a sucker for weird commercials like this, and I'm especially curious now to know exactly what they were trying to sell with such an off-kilter atmosphere. Once again, we hop back over the pond to England for a disturbing PIF from around 2007. Well, I say PIF, but we don't actually know for sure that that's what it is. In fact, we're now considering the possibility that it very well might have been some sort of trailer. Anyway, this one starts with a little girl running in a field of flowers. The footage looks old, and was maybe even in black and white. As the song Sera Sera plays, potentially the cover version by Pink Martini, either that or the Doris Day version minus the orchestra backing track, the girl is shown morphing into a full-grown woman. From there, the woman morphs into a sickly older woman, with bruises and other marks indicating hard drug use. A clanging sound rings out as jail bars appear, before the commercial ends. The concept for this one is pretty straightforward, but after listening to the creepy Pink Martini cover of Sera Sera, I can definitely see how it would leave an impression. There's not a great deal of information available on this one yet, mainly because its existence was discovered by the Lost Commercials Foundation while looking for something which ended up being a completely different thing. The kind of completely different thing that is absolutely horrifying, but I digress. If Books Could Talk is, according to a WorldCat entry for it, an 11-minute US educational short from 1980 by Visual Sense Corp. The short WorldCat blurb gives us the basic gist. A talking book teaches young children good rules for taking care of books. And unfortunately, that's all we really know about this one. If you have any additional info on If Books Could Talk, please be sure to pass it on to us. Now, this one isn't technically a commercial, but it's too interesting not to include. Plus, it was from the 70s and 80s HBO series Short Takes, an experimental short film series that aired between movies, so it sort of fits the same bill as a commercial. MIG Alley, or at least that's what people remember it being called, sees a gamer in an arcade who comes across a newly installed dogfighting simulator. As he plays the game, the planes shooting at him begin interacting with the real world, with their bullets coming through the screen and hitting random bystanders. The style of the short is described as having been either live-action stop-motion or realistic claymation. By the end of the short, one of the pilots from a shot-down plane lands on the game's windshield before the player presses a button to dislodge him with the wipers. Depending on who you ask, the player is also said to get ejected through the roof at the end. Regardless of the ending, I'm pretty confident we'll know this one when we see it. and hopefully sooner than later. For this 10th entry, we have 2 suicide prevention PSAs that were seen in Omaha, Nebraska between around 2008 and 2011. The first one shows a kitchen where we see objects falling off the shelves as a narrator speaks. It's said to end with creepy distorted piano music and a stop-motion scene of toys and plushies setting themselves and the kitchen on fire. The second in the series of commercials shows a woman sitting in an empty warehouse with glass panes surrounding her, acting as screens and showing moments from her life. It finishes with an overhead shot of the woman walking off screen. According to the person who brought these ads to our attention, and who has seen them, they would air frequently during the 6 o'clock news, and in the Wheel of Fortune episodes that followed directly after, on their local ABC affiliate station, which in Omaha would have been KETV. This is the latest search to be added to the LCF Discord, so there hasn't been a great deal of progress made on this one yet. But seeing as these ads are relatively new, compared to most of the others mentioned in this video, I'm feeling pretty confident that they'll turn up at some point. Don't worry, I didn't forget about this one. Like the baby shower commercial before it, or maybe after, we really don't know for sure, this US commercial involves someone being offered a snack and declining it, choosing instead to opt for a Carb Solutions bar. This time it takes place on a plane, and shows an air hostess asking a passenger on the flight to try the snack mix. And just like Genie, he gets a face full of Demon Lady tantrum in return. I've listed this one as around 2001, since we assume it was aired at around the same time as the baby shower one was. But it's worth keeping in mind that we don't have the year fully nailed down just yet. We know for sure that the baby shower variant aired on CBS and ABC affiliate stations around the United States, so I feel like that's still the best place to be looking at the moment. We've gone through countless hours of YouTube videos looking for this one too, with no success. But with new commercial compilations from those stations in that time period being uploaded to YouTube what seems like every few weeks of late, I have hope that we'll find this one eventually, and bring everything full circle, just like Jeannie and her circle of friends. Well, that's it. My first Lost Media video in nearly 5 years, but we got there. Thanks for sticking around to the end. I hope you guys found this informative, if not a little entertaining, and I really hope some of you decide to check out the Lost Commercials Foundation, because at the end of the day, the more feet on the ground, the better. Once again, you can find the link to their Discord in the description of this very video. That's all from me for now. See ya!